But I hope that we are going to make that history here today. I hope that we're going to take that step forward to continue the promise of Thomas Jefferson that Senator Schneiderman so eloquently talked about, or eradicate the inequality that Senator Adams described so painfully. I hope that we're going to make that choice. This vote is about an issue of fairness and equality, not political. It is about the fairness of people who are of the right age, of sound mind, who choose to live together, share everything together, and want to be able to have the protections that government grants those of us who have the privilege of marriage and treat it so cavalierly in our society.
At the University of Iowa, the topic of same-sex marriage comes up quite frequently in classroom discussions. And the question always comes down to, well, can gays even raise kids? And the question, the conversation gets quiet for a moment because most people don't really have an answer. And then I raise my hand and say, actually, I was raised by a gay couple, and I'm doing pretty well. I scored in the 99th percentile on the ACT. I'm actually an Eagle Scout. I own and operate my own small business. If I was your son, Mr. Chairman, I believe I'd make you very proud. I'm not really so different from any of your children. My family really isn't so different from yours. After all, your family doesn't derive its sense of worth from being told by the state, you're married, congratulations. No, the sense of family comes from the commitment we make to each other, to work through the hard times so we can enjoy the good ones. It comes from the love that binds us. That's what makes a family. So what you're voting here isn't to change us. It's not to change our families, it's to change how the law views us, how the law treats us. You are voting for the first time in the history of our state to codify discrimination into our Constitution, a Constitution that, but for the proposed amendment, is the least amended Constitution in the United States of America. You are telling Iowans that some among you are second-class citizens who do not have the right to marry the person you love. So will this vote affect my family? Would it affect yours? Over the next 2 hours, I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of testimony about how damaging having gay parents is on kids. But in my 19 years, not once have I ever been confronted by an individual who realized independently that I was raised by a gay couple. And you know why? Because the sexual orientation of my parents has had zero effect on the content of my character. Thank you very much.
And all they ask for is to be treated fairly and equally and be able to plan for each other in the event something happens to them. We have nothing to fear from people who are committed to each other, who want to share their lives and protect one another in the event of sickness, illness, or death. We have nothing to fear from love and commitment.
Let me repeat to them now, sir. All we are doing with this bill is allowing two people who love each other to have that love recognised by way of marriage. That is all we are doing. We are not declaring nuclear war on a foreign state. We are not bringing a virus in that could wipe out our agriculture sector forever. We are allowing two people who love each other to have that recognised, and I can't see what's wrong with that for love nor money, sir. I just cannot. I cannot understand why someone would be opposed. I understand why people don't like what it is that others do. That's fine. We're all in that category. But I give a promise to those people who are opposed to this bill right now. I give you a watertight, guaranteed promise. The sun will still rise tomorrow. Your teenage daughter will still argue back with you as if she knows everything. Your mortgage will not grow. You will not have skin diseases or rashes or toads in your bed, sir. The world will just carry on. So don't make this into a big deal. This is fantastic for the people it affects, but for the rest of us, life will go on.
And I know there are many people in the religious community who feel that we're going to force this on them, when that in fact is not true. We have never done that. I'm a Roman Catholic. The Catholic Church has the right to deny me the sacrament of marriage if they determine the person I choose to marry is unfit or our relationship doesn't meet their standards. City Hall does not have that right. That will not change under this bill. That will never change. Religious institutions can continue to practice discrimination with respect to the sacrament of marriage. We don't, we shouldn't. We should not do it for gay and lesbian couples.
I need to ask what it is that you believe Christians in particular are upset about.
I think the thing is that every pastor, we do marriages between husbands and wives. And, you know, Jesus said a man shall leave his father and mother and be married, and that's the biblical definition.
Reported the biblical definition of marriage, I would keep my mouth shut about that. Because you see, the biblical definition of marriage involves a man and potentially more than one woman and as many concubines as he wants to hire. Biblically, a rapist is required to marry the woman he raped. And ladies, if you can't prove you're a virgin on your wedding night, you're going to get stoned. I mean, like with rocks, not the other kind of stoned. Also, biblically, if your brother dies and hasn't had a kid yet, you got to marry his wife. It doesn't really matter if she wants to marry you or not, you have to. Biblically. In fact, nowhere in the Bible is a woman's consent required for marriage. So I'm just saying, if I believed all of those things, I would probably keep my mouth shut.
And I'm just curious for you, Kevin, if you call yourself a Christian, why don't you believe the words of Jesus in the Bible?
Well, okay, thank you.
Well, mate, if I was going to have that view, the Bible also says that slavery is a natural condition. Because St. Paul said in the New Testament, slaves, be obedient to your masters. And therefore we should have all fought for the Confederacy in the US Civil War. I mean, for goodness sake, the human condition and social conditions change. What is the fundamental principle of the New Testament? It is one of universal love, loving your fellow man. And if we get obsessed with a particular definition of that through a form of sexuality, then I think we're missing the centrality of what the gospel, whether you call it a social gospel, a personal gospel, or a spiritual gospel, is all about.
It exemplifies why I think people who cite the Bible as a justification for denying others their legal rights are insane. If you're going to claim that you stand up for biblical principles, stand up for them. But that means stand up for all of them. Don't just stand up for the ones that give you a person to hate or an easy victim to other. Stop wearing polyester and stop watching football and go marry your dead brother's wife. I have no problem with people standing up for their religion, but I have a big problem with people standing up for hate and trying to say it's because of religion.
And therefore, I go back to my question. If you think homosexuality is an unnatural condition, then frankly, I cannot agree with you based on any element of the science. And therefore, if a person's sexuality is as they are made, then you've got to ask the second question. Should, therefore, their loving relationships be legally recognised? And the conclusion I've reached is that they should.
I know many people are concerned about the destruction of the sanctity of marriage as well, and they view this as a threat. But let me ask you something, ladies and gentlemen. What are we really protecting? When you look at the divorce rate in our society, turn on the television. We have a wedding channel on cable TV devoted to the behavior of people on their way to the altar. They spend billions of dollars, behave in the most appalling way, all in an effort to be princess for a day. You don't have cable television? Put on network TV. We're giving away husbands on a game show. You can watch The Bachelor, where 30 desperate women will compete to marry a 40-year-old man who's never been able to maintain a decent relationship in his life. We have The Bachelorette in reverse. And my favorite show, which thank God only ran one season because it was truly distasteful, was The Littlest Groom, where 30 desperate women competed to marry a dwarf. That's what we've done to marriage in America, where young women are socialized from the time they're 5 years old to think of being nothing but a bride. They plan every day. There's what they'll wear, how they'll look, their invitations, the whole bit. They don't spend 5 minutes thinking about what it means to be a wife. People stand up there before God and man. Even in Senator Diaz's church, they swear to love, honor, and obey. They don't mean a word of it. And that's really what this is about. We in government don't determine the quality or the validity of people's relationships. If we did, we would not issue 3/4 of the marriage licenses we do. And so if there's anything wrong or any threat to the sanctity of marriage in America, it comes from those of us who have the privilege and the right, and we have abused it for decades.
It is now our generation's task to carry on what those pioneers began. For our journey is not complete until our wives, our mothers, and daughters can earn a living equal to their efforts. Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. For if we are truly created equal, then surely the love we commit to one another must be equal as well.